All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to DPP, otherwise known as Daily Power Parsha. This is December 7th, 2020. December 7th, 2020, and this is our daily exploration of the Torah portion. I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to jump right in because we have so much to get to today. We're going to explore the story. Torah portion is Vayeishev. The story this week is all about Joseph. Oh, and by the way, it's the story this week. It's the story next week. It's the story the week after. We have now a few portions that are all about the Joseph drama, and drama it is. All right, we're going to start from the beginning. Today is Monday, so we're going to try to get as much as we can in the first and second readings. Let's start. Jacob dwelt. Genesis chapter 37, verse 1. Jacob dwelt in the land of his father's sojournings in the land of Canaan. So remember, Jacob is the fellow who was born in Israel, or Canaan, left home to escape his brother's wrath and to get married, was away from home, from the land of Canaan for decades, came back and is now living where his father had lived. Okay, Vayeishev. I must quote Rashi right away, this opening verse. Wow, what a Rashi. What a Rashi. Let me find this. Hold on. No, I don't know.
Rabbi, can you do me a favor? Can you just refresh on the genealogy of Joseph?
Yeah, for sure. No, great question. So Joseph is one of the 12 sons of Jacob. And he is the oldest son of Jacob's beloved wife, Rachel. So Jacob from the beginning wanted to marry Rachel. He married Leah. He had kids with Leah, and Rachel wasn't able to have kids for many, many years until she had a boy and then another boy, but the oldest of her sons is Joseph. So Joseph is his beloved Rachel's son. I want to share with you this Rashi. Take a look. I'm highlighting it right here. I'm going to actually make it a little bit bigger just so it's nice and large on the screen. Rashi says it is further expounded upon as follows. Dwelt in verse 1. Okay, and what does the word dwelt mean? Vayeishev, which is the name of the Parsha. It says, when Jacob sought to dwell in tranquility, the troubles of Joseph sprang upon him. You see, the righteous seek to dwell in tranquility. Said the Holy One, blessed be he. What is prepared for the righteous in the world to come is not sufficient for them, but they seek also to dwell in tranquility in this world, not happening, essentially. Basically, that's a rhetorical question from God, and let me explain. Vayeishev means, and he dwelt. And what it means here is that Jacob wished to dwell in Bishalva, in tranquility and peace, and no more drama, right? Jacob had lived a life filled with drama. Jacob's drama included the fighting with his... Oh, did I not share my screen before? I don't think I shared my screen. I did? Okay. Jacob had lived a very difficult life. Jacob had endured a constant rivalry with his twin brother. He endured the time with Laban, with his father-in-law. There's a lot that he had to survive. And now at this, of course, he endured the drama with Dinah, with his daughter who was abducted and assaulted. And then his sons go wipe out a city. So he dealt with a lot, and all he wanted, he's an older man at this point, all he wants now is Vayeishev Bishalva, is to live in a state of peace. Not to rest in peace, like we say, but to live, to dwell in peace. No more drama. And what happens? The greatest drama of his life is about to happen. If you think the other stuff was dramatic, if you think Esau, Laban, and Dinah were dramatic, get ready for the drama of Joseph, which will span another 2 decades, another 20 years. And what's the rationale? And Rashi doesn't explain it, he just says it. That God says, I have prepared for the righteous incredible blessings in the next world. And they also want to be blessed in this world too with peace. Not so fast. It's going to be easy here and there. You can't have everything. So God is saying, it's going to be good for you then. Now it's going to be a little bit challenging. But really the message for us is, right out of the gate, the first message is that life is not meant to be a picnic. Life is not meant to be a walk in the park. It's not. And no one ever promised that would be the case. In other words, we never got a guarantee that life was going to be easy. Never happened. All right. Can you see my screen again with the Torah text? Yes. Okay. Verse number 2. These are the generations of Jacob. And by the way, when it says generations in Torah, it usually means it's about to list all the kids. Well, it lists one kid. These are the generations of Jacob, and then it talks about one child. And that's another clue as to how beloved Joseph was to Jacob. Right? These are Jacob's kids. Let's talk about Joseph. When Joseph was 17 years old, being a shepherd, the Torah says, he was with his brothers with the flocks, and he was a lad, which according to the commentaries mean that there was an element of maybe childlike behavior. And he was with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought evil tales about them to their father. What's the nature of these evil tales? What would he say? Rashi explains evil tales. What information was he telling his father about his brothers? So Rashi says, any evil that he saw in his brothers, the sons of Leah, he would tell his father. Number 1, that they ate limbs from living animals. 2, that they demeaned the sons of the handmaids by calling them slaves. And 3, that they were suspected of illicit sexual relationships. For these 3 tales, he was punished. For the report that his brothers ate limbs from living animals, they slaughtered a kid when they sold him and did not eat it alive. For the report that he told about them that they called their brothers slaves, Joseph was sold as a slave. And concerning the illicit sexual relationships that he told about them, his master's wife lifted her eyes, etc. He was enticed into, potentially an illicit relationship. Either way, I think it's fascinating to understand what it is, what type of reports Joseph was really bringing to his father about his brothers, the sons of Leah. And these are 3 pretty serious charges. Now, what's the deal? The understanding is that he didn't necessarily see correctly, and his reports weren't 100% accurate. He thought he was reporting, these violations and grave sins. In truth, he was mistaken. But that's why the Torah kind of tells us that he was acting like a lad, which means he wasn't necessarily looking at things with a purely, with a deep and mature perspective. He was looking at things kind of in a very reactive way. And he would bring these negative reports to their father, to Jacob. So far, so good with the story. Yeah. So we have pitted here the sons of Leah and Joseph, the son of Rachel. Again, a bit of a family rivalry here that goes back to their mothers and their rivalry, which we spoke about the last week or two, about their own kind of friction in the experience of being married to the same guy. All right, verse 3. And Israel, just in case it wasn't clear up until now, Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons. Well, there you go. By the way, this is not telling us how the brothers felt. This is kind of like the narrator of Torah, in other words, the God narration, telling us that was the fact. Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons because he was a son of his old age, which means because he was born to Rachel in his old age. And he made him a fine woolen coat, otherwise known as the coat of many colors, otherwise known as the Technicolor dream coat. All right, let's continue with verse 4. And his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers. So now it's their perspective. Before, verse 3, it was the reality that he loved him. And the 4th verse is his brothers recognized that, which means if we're taking cautionary tales from Torah, which might be a category unto itself, number 1, don't play favorites. Number 2, if you do, at least don't allow the other kids to realize that you're playing favorites. Are you with me on that? So ideally, you don't love one more than the other. Less ideally, you make sure that that's not obviously known to those other brothers. But in this case, He loved Joseph more, and it was clear to the brothers. His brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, so they hated him, and they could not speak with him peacefully. In other words, they couldn't even pretend that they liked him. So I'll ask you a question. Which is better? Is it better to hate and pretend that you like, or to hate and let the other one know that you hate? No, what do you think? What's better? Should you show your cards and wear your emotions on your sleeve, or should you try to hide it? What do you think? Right? The brothers hated Joseph, so they could not speak with him peacefully. Was that good or not good?
It wasn't good, but I mean, I think it's preferable to be honest.
You agree with Rashi. Take a look at what Rashi says. They could not speak with him peacefully. Rashi says, from what is stated to their discredit, in other words, from their criticism, we also may learn something to their credit, that they did not say one thing with their mouth and think differently in their heart. In other words, even though it's not good that they hated, and it's not good that they spoke to him negatively, but at least they were being honest and consistent. And that's something that we can also learn, as a virtue.
Because we've also spoke about no deception. Deception is bad.
Good. So finally, the brothers are not
And
deceiving him.
yesterday we spoke about the best thing against anger is to say nothing.
Yes. So that seems like a contradiction. So if you're angry and you say nothing, so then you're not being honest. That's why we have to be careful in the application of this. So there's a value in being a mensch. There's also value in honesty. I guess it's how you kind of allow it to play out, right? Are you unloading on the other, or is it doesn't say that they would speak to him hatefully. It just says they could not speak with him peacefully. In other words, they didn't pretend, they didn't lie. Maybe they were quiet. It doesn't say that they spoke to him negatively. It says they could not speak with him peacefully. So maybe they just didn't say anything at all. Huh?
I have it. By being honest or showing, not sugarcoating, maybe that gives an opportunity for communication to try and work it out.
I like it. To kind of allow the other one to know kind of what's going on, what the score is, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Again,
I've got one thing to add.
Yeah, for sure. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah. It says in Targum Onkelos, it says, it does not mean to speak about him peacefully. It says, for the brothers did not speak ill of Joseph to others.
Excellent.
They spoke to him, but not to others. Yeah.
So even though they had a beef with him, they didn't start lushing hara. They didn't start lushing, as they say. They didn't start, spinning tails and telling everybody how terrible their brother Joseph is. Good. Excellent. So there's still, even within a non-ideal situation, there's still lessons that we can learn from this, constructive lessons about how to deal with complicated relationships. Okay, let's continue now. So this is just the first 4 verses, kind of setting up, the pieces. Then we have the dreams, and of course, as you know, I'm sure you know in the story, dreams play a major role throughout the Joseph tale. There are 3 levels of dreams: Joseph's dreams, the butler and the baker's dreams, Pharaoh's dreams. We have multiple layers of dreams as the story will progress. But here's layer 1 of dreams. Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told his brothers. Wasn't that a song, Mr. Sandman? Dream me a dream or something? Yes? Okay. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told his brothers, and they continued to hate him even more. What was the dream? And he said to them, listen now to this dream which I have dreamed. Behold, verse 7, behold, we were binding sheaves in the midst of the field. And behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves encircled it and prostrated themselves to my sheaf. Essentially, they're all taking, in his dream, they're all assuming the form of bundles of sheaves in the field, and their sheaves are bowing down to his. Verse 8, so his brother said to him, will you reign over us, or will you govern us? Is that what you're telling us with your dreams? that you believe that you're going to be our king? And they continued further to hate him on account of his dreams and on account of his words. Not only the dreams, but also kind of the interpretation that either was stated or was implied. And he again dreamed another dream, verse 9, and he related it to his brothers. Again, you got to be a little self-aware also to not stoke the fire and, keep on poking. Nonetheless, this is what happened. He told them about the second dream, and he said, behold, I have dreamed another dream. And behold, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars were all prostrating themselves to me. So we were all in the sky, and the sun, moon, and stars were all bowing down to me. And he told it to his father and to his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, what is this dream that you have dreamed? Will we come, I, the sun, your mother, the moon, and your brothers, the 11 stars, to prostrate ourselves to you to the ground? Is that really going to happen? So his brothers envied him. But his father awaited the matter, which means that in verse 10, when his father rebuked him, he only rebuked him in front of the other brothers. He only rebuked him to not also add fuel to this fire of the breakdown of the fraternal relationships. He said, oh, come on, this is ridiculous, to try to diffuse it in the eyes of the brothers. But his brothers were still jealous, and his father, Jacob, knew that this was indeed a prophecy, that one day Joseph would be the ruler, and they would all, on some level, bow down to him, including their father. As you know the story, this eventually happens when Joseph becomes viceroy in Egypt and becomes the big macher in Mitzrayim. Okay, one thing that I need to mention about verse 10, and again, I'm gonna toggle Rashi. Take a look at what Rashi says, verse 10. Remember, in the dream, it was the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowing down to Joseph. The sun is understood to refer to Jacob, the moon to Rachel. So let's read Rashi all the way through here on this verse 10. And he told it to his father and to his brothers. After he told it to his brothers, he once again told it to his father in their presence. His father rebuked him because he was bringing hatred upon himself. Right? He could see his brother, Jacob could see his son Joseph kind of self-destructing, but not really self-destructing, but kind of painting a massive target on his own back. So he was trying to, again, diffuse the situation. And he says, will we come and bow down to you? Really, the question is, isn't your mother Rachel already dead? Right? In your dream, there was the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bound. Who's the moon? Your mother, Rachel. She already passed away. So clearly the dream is, not real. That's how he was trying to diffuse it, by just discarding it and laughing it off. But he, Jacob, did not know that the matters referred to Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, who had raised him as if she were his mother. Our rabbis, however, so that's one interpretation. One interpretation is that the moon did not refer to Rachel, which Jacob laughed off, but Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, who raised Joseph as her own child. That's one interpretation. Rashi continues. Our rabbis, however, derive from here that there is no dream without devarim b'telim, without meaningless components. In other words, if you're having a dream, something's not going to make sense, right? Every dream, there's at least one element that doesn't make sense. In the case of Joseph, that one element was the moon, according to this interpretation, was the moon bowing down to him. What moon? Your mother? She's already passed away. So that was the nonsensical part of the dream, because every dream, even if it's a prophetic dream, has something in it that's a little bit wonky. Jacob, however, what was his intention? Jacob, however, intended to make his sons forget the whole matter. Again, he was trying to laugh it off so that they would not envy Joseph. Therefore, he said, will we come, etc. Just as it is impossible for your mother, who has passed away already, so is the rest of your dream meaningless. And again, he really believed it, but he said this to try to diffuse the animosity that was being stoked and percolating between Joseph and his brothers. That was his way of saying, ridiculous, not going to happen, although he knew it was going to on some level, and he was getting ready for that. He was looking forward to that day. Let's continue. Actually, before we continue the second reading, any questions or comments about what we just discussed? Jump right in. Ray, go ahead. Hold on one second. Unmute first, please. Yeah, you got it.
He said that Bilhah raised two.
Say it again.
Bilhah raised
Yes.
who?
Bilhah, according to Rashi, Bilhah, after Rachel passed away, Bilhah, her handmaid, helped raise Joseph. Remember, Joseph and Benjamin were 8 or 9 years apart. Joseph was now, the Torah just told us, was 17 years old, which means Benjamin was 8 or 9 years old, right? He was somewhere in that range. But that means that Joseph was 8 or 9 when his mother passed away. So who raised him? As a 9-year-old kid, who raised him? It was Bilhah. So Rashi says that's one interpretation of the meaning of the moon. Who's the moon that's going to bow down to him one day? It's not his mother, but it's Bilhah who stepped in when his mother passed away. But then Rashi says another interpretation is, no, it doesn't make sense. And that makes sense because it's a dream, and dreams don't make sense, right? So the fact that it doesn't make sense makes sense because it's a dream. Okay, but yeah, excellent question. Second reading, Genesis 37, verse 12. And here is the the very sad episode of where this comes to an explosion. And his brothers went to pasture their father's flocks in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, oh, by the way, Shechem, remember Shechem? Shechem was a place, and the guy who had abducted Dinah. Anyway, so they went to pasture their father's flocks in that town of Shechem. And Israel, Israel, right, said to Joseph, are your brothers not pasturing in Shechem? Come and I will send you to them. And he said to him, Hineni. Joseph said to his father, I'm ready to go. Hineni, here I am. By the way, Hineni, I'm going to highlight it in the Hebrew. Hineni is a really beautiful word. Whenever you find God calling on a human being, like, for example, Abraham, right? God says to Abraham, here's what I need. Abraham, are you ready? Abraham would say, Hineni.
Hineni.
Here I am. I love Hineni. Hineni is ready to go, at your service. But it also means something else. Hineni is not, I'm ready to listen. Hineni is not, I'm ready to do. Hineni is, here I am. How often in life are we not fully present when another is communicating with us, right? We can't really say Hineni because we're also Hineni, also here with the device sometimes, right? So it's like, can I speak to you for a second? Sure, as I'm distracted, so I'm not really fully present. But in this case, when it comes to Abraham and God, Abraham says, Hineni, I'm here completely and totally and wholly. There's nothing, there's no part of me that's distracted. And in the same in the same vein, when Yisrael / Jacob says to his son Joseph, I want to go check, I want to send you to check on your brothers. He says, Hineni, I'm fully present. Let's continue verse 14. So he said to him, go now and see to your brother's welfare and to the welfare of the flocks. Check on how everything is doing and bring me back word. So he sent him from the valley of Hebron and he came to Shechem. So they went from Hebron to Shechem. Now on the journey, while Joseph is traveling, something happens. Verse 15. Then a man found him, and behold, he was straying in the field. So apparently Joseph got either a little bit lost or whatever. He was bobbing and weaving. And the man asked him, saying, what are you looking for? And he said, I'm looking for my brothers. Tell me now, where are they pasturing? And the man said, they have traveled away from here. They're not in Shechem anymore. For I overheard them say, let us go to a place called Dotan or Dothan or Dosan. We'll stick with, I'm going to use the T sound, Dotan. Let's go to Dotan. So Joseph went after his brothers and he found them in Dotan. So let me explain. The father sends Joseph to check on his brothers in Shechem. He goes to Shechem and now he's wandering the fields because he's looking for his brothers and he can't find them. So this other fellow says, what are you looking for? Oh, your brothers, they moved on from here. They went to a place called Dotan. So Joseph continued the journey and he went to Dotan. Let's continue. And he saw them, verse 18, and he saw them from afar. By the way, I need to mention before I continue, where did his father send him to go? His father said, go to Shechem, right? Go to Shechem. So one could say, if you went to Shechem and they weren't there, he should head home. He fulfilled his obligation, right? His father sent him to Shechem. He went to Shechem and that's it. But no, because if you remember from verse 14, he said, go now and see to your brother's welfare and the welfare of the flocks and bring me back word. It wasn't just about going to Shechem as implied in verse 13. It was checking on the brothers. So if he found out that the brothers moved on from Shechem and are now in Dotan, he had to keep on traveling.
Ari, I've got one thing to add.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a Rashi about to pasture their father's flock. He says there are dots over the word S because they went only to pasture, in other words, themselves. In other words, he says, the verse teaches us that it was the brothers' indulgence in eating and drinking. In other words, they were pasturing themselves, not their flocks in the pasture, which led to their sin.
Very interesting. I will tell you this. I'm not a shepherd, but if, I can imagine that I know I'm shocking you by telling you that I'm not a shepherd, on the weekends. I'm just saying, whatever. So, yeah, but I can imagine the shepherd life is, by and large, maybe a little bit tranquil and peaceful, maybe a good time to bring a 6-pack or a 12-pack, depending on how many brothers you have with you, and kick back and bring some barbecue, and that's it. And you're good to go. You throw yourself a little party over there in the fields while the animals are doing their thing. So yeah, Mark is pointing out, according to Rashi, it's that indulgence of the eating and drinking led to the violence and the violent thoughts that they were about to have and perpetrate. Let's continue. Oh, by the way, there was a loaded message here in Dotan. As Rashi points out in verse 17, let me share that with you. Verse 17. When the fellow said, oh, they left Shechem, they've traveled away from here, he's alluding to the fact that they've removed themselves from brotherhood. When he said they've traveled away from here, meaning not only physically, but also emotionally and familially, they've left you. They're in a different place. They don't like you. And let's understand the next word, Dotan. Let us go to Dotan. In Hebrew, it's Nelcha, Dotana, which means to seek regarding you legal pretext by which they could put you to death. According to its simple meaning, however, it's a place of a name. It's a name of a place, and a biblical verse never loses its simple meaning. So simply, Dotan is a place, but allegorically, it hints to Dotan means like a legal pretext. So they're convening right now to find a rationale to kill you so that they don't feel guilty about it. So again, what Joseph heard was a fellow telling him that his brother has moved on and he can catch up with them in another town. But if you really want to analyze it, you can come up with all of these hidden messages in this fellow's warning, which is also a message for us. And that is in life, pay attention to the hidden messages. Pay attention to the meanings beneath the meanings or behind the meanings, the lines between the lines. Oftentimes, those hold the most important information. Let's continue. Verse 18. And they saw him from afar. And when he had not yet drawn near to him, they had already plotted against him to put him to death. They see him from a distance and already they're plotting to kill him. And remember, they actually had a family meeting without him, a brother meeting, and also without Benjamin. 10 of the brothers, the older 10 brothers, had a meeting to find legal pretext by which they could actually kill him, put him to death, and not feel so guilty about it. So they said, and if you want to know what those legal pretexts were, that many commentaries discuss it. We actually mentioned it in one of our Secrets of the Bible classes. They thought he was, trying to overthrow Judah's sovereignty because Judah was meant to be king. And here he was talking about them bowing down to him. They thought he was all sorts of things. They thought he was trying to kill them or kill their spiritual legacy by taking the covenant of Abraham for himself. Various different rationales that we have amongst the sages as to what they were thinking. But either way, what they were thinking is they're going to kill him. So verse 19, so they said one to the other. One to the other. Rashi, take a look. No, it's not here. One to the other is Shimon to Levi, or Levi to Shimon. They were the ones that wiped out the city of Shechem. So they were the two brothers that always worked on these violent plans. So they said one to the other, behold, that dreamer is coming. So now let us kill him, and we will cast him into one of the pits, and we will say a wild beast devoured him, and we will see what will become of his dreams. Let's get rid of him. Let's dispose of the body, throw him into the pit. He will not have any remains. It's going to be devoured by the animals, and we'll say that a wild beast devoured him, which will be true, but that was post-mortem. Right, that's after they had already killed him that was going to happen. And as far as his dreams, we'll see what happens with that, right? After he's gone, we're not bound down to him. However, verse 21, Reuben heard. Reuben, the oldest brother, the oldest son of Jacob, he heard the plan, and he saved him from their hands. And he said, let us not deal him a deadly blow. Why should we kill him and throw him into the pits? Let's just throw him into the pit and let nature take its course. But at least we won't be actively taking life. And Reuben said to them, verse 22, do not shed blood. Cast him into this pit, which is in the desert, but do not lay a hand upon him. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Casting him into a pit is laying a hand on him. But what he means is don't mortally kill him. Don't apply mortal wounds to him directly. Throw him into the pit and let the animals or the snakes or the scorpions do their thing, God forbid. And he said that, do not shed blood, etc. The Torah tells us why, in order to save him from their hands, to return him to his father. Reuben's, this is very important. You got to pick this up in the story because it's really important. Reuben's intention was not what he said. He said, don't kill him, throw him into the pit, essentially saying that he'll die there. That was not Reuben's intention. The Torah reveals Reuben's intention. It was in order to save him and return him to his father, which means that Reuben was going to advise that they throw him into the pit. And then later on in time, Reuben was going to go back to the pit before the animals got to him, rescue Joseph, and bring him back home. That was Reuben's plan. Did it ever work out that way? The answer is no. Because at this point, Reuben goes off on his own. He goes off on his own way for the next little bit. And in the interim, as I don't want to give too much away, they sell him as a slave and he ends up in Egypt. So here's the moral of the story. If you want to save someone, don't push it off for later. Reuben intends to bring him back home, but he doesn't end up doing it because he wandered off. It's like the opposite story of the villain in all these cartoon things where the villain has the good guy. But instead of ending it, I'm not advocating that he end it, but instead of, it's like, oh, wait for a minute and I'll come back. And then what's really going to happen? And then in the meantime, dude escapes. So here's what happens. In this case, Reuben intends to bring him back home today. He just wants his brothers to throw him to the pit and then he'll pull him out when no one's looking. But Reuben goes on his way and it doesn't work out. The commentaries tell us that if Reuben knew what was going to be written about him in Torah, that he saved him from their hands. In other words, if Reuben knew that the Torah is ready to call him a hero, it almost does. It basically does. But he wasn't the hero. He didn't make it happen. But if Reuben knew that the Torah was going to call him a hero, he would have this is what the Talmud says, he would have put Joseph on his shoulders in front of all the brothers and carried him home right then and there. In other words, sometimes we downplay our ability, our potential. Sometimes we minimize our own potential and we say, I can't do it. I can't stand up. I can't to the brothers. I have to go later when no one's looking, when it's secret, when everyone went home already. And then the Torah wants us to be the hero. And to be the hero means that you act right now. You don't push it off for later. Reuben had such potential. He had such potential. He had all the good ideas. Last week we read about the good idea with his father, and after Rachel passed away, he wanted his father to move in with his mother, Leah, right? He wanted that to happen. He had a good intention, but he went about it in not the most effective way. And in this case, he had a great intention. He wanted to save Joseph and bring him back home. He doesn't get the job done. Somehow or another, the opportunity slips between his fingers. And so the message here is, don't be a Reuben. I mean, you can enjoy the sandwich and all, but don't be a Reuben who sees opportunity, understands what to do, formulates a plan, and then at the end fizzles out, right? We can't afford that. The world can't afford for us to let opportunities slip literally between our fingers. So what can inspire us is knowing that the Torah has faith in us. The Torah says that Reuben saved them from their hands. The Torah says, you can do it. I believe in you. You got this. I'm even writing it. I'm pre-inscribing it. I'm writing the tribute to this heroic act that you could do right now. All that's left is for you and I to do it. So let's be inspired by this story and Reuben's lack of, getting it done, and let us get it done in our lives. All right, this concludes the themes that I wanted to speak about today. First two readings, we had a lot that we actually spoke about. I'm just going to kind of go back. First thing we learned about, just to recap, quick bullet points. Vayeishev, Yaakov wanted to dwell in tranquility, and God says, tranquility, you want peace? After 120 years, when you're gone, you'll rest in peace. But right now, life will always be coupled with challenge. Life will be a struggle. Don't think you're going to get an easy ride. It ain't going to happen. That's one thing. Next thing we learn about is no favoring kids. And if you do, and this is not meant to be said, but if you do, at least don't let the others find out about it. All right. No, but in all seriousness, it's not good to even give the impression of preference of one child over the other, etc. It just creates chaos and unnecessary heartbreak. Next is about what were the other themes that we spoke about? About the dreams, about the Dvarim B'Telem, how every dream has some sort of nonsensical message in it, because that's the nature of a dream. Although we could say in this dream about the sun, moon, and stars, that the moon referred to Bilhah, who was who kind of raised him as her own child. Okay, we also learned about the father guarding the message of the dream, even as he's trying to diffuse the animosity. In the second reading, we learned about messages, hidden messages. Be on the lookout for hidden messages. Joseph was told not only that his brothers had left, but they had left him, right? They had left their love of him somewhere behind, and they were planning on, God forbid, killing him. So it's important in life that we pay attention to messages. And we spoke about the idea of being honest with your feelings. And if you can't speak nicely, then just avoid speaking at all and not pretending. And then we spoke about Reuben, the fact that Reuben has noble intentions, heroic intentions, but doesn't see it through. The message for us is be the hero. Don't let opportunity fall by the wayside. All right, that's it for today. Make sense? Awesome. All right, we'll see you all tonight, hopefully. Tonight.
You remember right about the extra laptop for me?
Yeah, I have the iPad from last time as well. So we're good. Yeah, I remembered. Okay, so we will see you. Ray, I'm gonna give you a call in like 2 minutes, and we'll wrap that up for the new course. Take a look at what's going on this week at IJA. We got a lot of great stuff. We got tonight the jewelry. We have a new Talmud course coming up Tuesday night. We have the regular class Wednesday and Thursday, the Torah studies in JLI, and then Saturday night we have just an incredible, explosive event. I'm kidding. It's the Iron Dome. Secrets of the Iron Dome with the engineer that designed it all. It's going to be incredible. And plus you get a gift box with latkes and sufganiyot. It literally doesn't get better than that. So Saturday night, make sure you're there. Make sure you tell others about it. Anyone can join from wherever. The only thing is the boxes of food won't be able to get there, but the talk live from Israel will be able to be delivered. So join us Saturday night. All right. Have a good week. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow. Please God.